Hey, Lisa. It's Megan. No, no, don't hang up. Don't hang up. Yeah. Hi. Thank you for picking up. This is my new number. Yeah, it's a landline. Yeah, I have to stay away from the internet for a little bit. Just going through a little bit of a detox for my mind. Yeah, so that brings up why I'm calling. There's no easy way to say this. Well, I'm not in QAnon anymore. So there's that. And I just wanted to apologize because I do not think that you and your husband are in a secret cabal of Satan worshiping, cannibalistic pedophiles who are running a child sex trafficking ring and trying to overthrow former President Trump. I don't believe any of those things. And I'm so sorry. I put them all over my social media with photos of you both. Yeah. Okay. Oh, you gotta go. Yeah, you gotta go. Okay. No, that makes sense. Thank you. Thank you for. Okay. Hello? Oh, okay.
From a bunker in beautiful Parkchester, the Bronx, it's Electoral Dysfunction. Now, here's your host, Tom Brennan.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Electoral Dysfunction, the show where comedians and experts debate the news of the week from the safety of their quarantine. I'm your host, Tom Brennan. Thank you for being with us for another week. And thank you to Megan O'Malley for doing our show opening. This is kind of an interesting episode because while we were recording the panel, the Senate impeachment vote played out. And you'll actually hear us react to it as it happens live. But for those of you who missed it, 57 voted to convict, 43 voted to acquit. And so by the math of the United States Senate, a place where reconciliation means we're going to do whatever we want and you're going to deal with it, Donald Trump has been acquitted. 43, that's all you need. It's a disappointing moment for democracy, or for justice, rather. I guess democracy, too. Why not? Bad for everyone. But at the same time, I think I don't agree with the sentiment that says we just need to move on, because you can't move on without accountability. But, you know, it is interesting because we kind of knew it was going to shake out this way from the get-go, right? We knew the Republican Party wasn't going to throw Donald Trump under the bus. They weren't going to do that. They need his supporters. They need his voters. There's 43 Republican senators. I believe 40 of them are planning to run for president. That's the way it goes. It's disappointing, but it is. I hope people can take some heart in the fact that a majority of your fellow Americans rejected this man at the ballot box. A majority of your elected officials, including 7 Republican senators, 2 of whom, Pat Toomey and Richard Burr, are the worst. And even they said, you know what, this guy's guilty. I hope that some heart can be taken in that. You know, America's not broken. The United States Senate is. That's just the way it goes. With that, I'm going to kick it over to the panel. It is a great one. It is a very loose one. It's a little punchy. We get into it, and again, we get into the breaking news of the Senate impeachment vote. We get into it as it happens. So, Ned Thorne, my ally and friend, star white me to the panel. And join me in welcoming this week's panel. First up, very funny comedian and friend of the show, senior content producer for Change.org, and we just found out, host of the Brown Taboo Project podcast, Shreya Sarkar. Hey, Shreya, how are you?
Hello. Thank you for finally reminding me that I have a podcast.
Yep. Well,
that's on me. That's on
I was gonna say that puts you in rare company if you have to be reminded that you have a podcast.
I know. It's a lot of self-esteem issues.
No, I hear you.
Compounding and stuff.
The minute I started doing a podcast, I was like, ugh.
I know. I can't let the public know. It's too shameful.
Yeah, I'm cliche enough. Next up, very funny comedian. You know him from NFL Fan Therapy, from The Onion, and from his brief stint invading the Capitol. James Heskey is back with us. Hey, James, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Hopefully, I will stay out of jail. Right? I think I will be one of the people who they will not press charges against. So, and also, hopefully, I will not. I didn't taser my balls and have a heart attack. So,
yeah,
I'm in that column. So, feeling good.
Weird Venn diagram of people who invaded the Capitol but didn't taser their balls
and did not have charges pressed against them. So, feeling good. Feeling good.
It's a rare spot. Good to see you again, James. Next up, joining us from the great city of Philadelphia, improviser, thinker, friend to millions, Mo Mankling. Hey, Mo, how are you?
I'm doing good, and my millions of friends are also so happy that Philadelphia is on the hearts and minds of all people on this cloudy Saturday.
I have to say, nothing. Again, I generally hate the United States Senate, but them all laughing at that lawyer saying Philadelphia as one voice, I was like, that was the most humanizing moment that body has had in decades.
For real. And I think the most support that Philadelphia has ever actually gotten.
Yeah.
from the federal government. So
that's exactly.
Good.
Yeah. I can't believe Bob Casey Jr. threw a battery at him midway through that scene.
Well, that's what he gets for dressing up like Santa while he's presenting.
That's true. Yeah. That's the only suit he owned. And of course, from Bloomberg Opinion, my friend and enemy of millions. I'm so tired today. Robert George. Hey, Robert, how are you?
Hey, Tom. How's it going? I thought that I had recognized James Heskey from somewhere, and I was thinking, oh my God, yes, it was from the insurrection. How could I? And you know what? But you know what? He probably will not be. He probably will not be charged. Well, for two reasons. One, somehow he kind of merged with all of the other kind of heavy set white guys that were storming the Capitol, so they didn't quite identify him. And he was smart enough.
Really unnecessary for you to call that out, but go on.
He was smart enough. He was smart enough not to videotape himself. So so there's that. Plus the fact that not too many people realize this. He is Mitch McConnell's illegitimate son. So Mitch came down for him and said, nah, we're not gonna. He gets a pass. So.
James Heskey, I'm gonna let you respond to that.
Sure. I didn't have a choice to be Mitch McConnell's illegitimate son, but you did have a choice to work for Newt Gingrich, and you did.
Oh, nice. Well played. Very well played.
And on that note, let's talk about pitch battles between the left and the right. We're recording this Saturday afternoon as the impeachment trial appears to be concluding in the Senate. Looked like for a moment it might not. There was a vote earlier this morning to have witnesses speak. Specifically, Congresswoman from Washington, whose name escapes me at this moment in time.
Jamie Herrera Butler.
There you go. Who is a corroborating witness to the bombshell reporting from CNN, I believe, yesterday that leader of the House minority, Kevin McCarthy, had a expletive-filled phone call with Donald Trump during the insurrection, where he begged Donald Trump to get him to call off his goons. I believe at one point shouted, "Who the fuck do you think you are?" to Donald Trump, who I don't care for, but at that point in time was the president of the United States. So, that's not nothing.
Tom, can I?
But if he's up against Leader McCarthy, I'm like, all right, back off, Kevin.
Tom,
Yes, sir.
as I understand, the exact exchange was, McCarthy says, these are your supporters. They're breaking into my office. Call them off. And
and everyone else's office if you have time.
The president of the United States says, well, Kevin, I guess they're more concerned about the election than you are. And Kevin McCarthy responded, who the fuck do you think you're talking to?
I'm sorry.
So yeah.
And again, like the least powerful man in government, I guess.
Well, and the thing is, though,
Yeah, like every sentence was said with that in that text where every other letter is a capital letter.
The thing is, though, what we've realized from just 2 weeks or so after that, when McCarthy kind of went with like hat in hand down to Mar-a-Lago to visit the former president, Donald Trump knew exactly who the fuck that he was talking to, and it knew that there would be no consequences for saying that to Kevin McCarthy then. And based on what looks, we're taping this as the vote is about to take place, but the Senate is about to, the Senate Republicans not enough Senate Republicans will support conviction of this president, and so he will be, quote, acquitted, even though it will be arguably the largest pro-conviction impeachment in history. But if there are no consequences in the context of the Republican Party.
Do you imagine that Donald Trump thinks that there are any consequences to literally anything that he does? I haven't seen much evidence of that thus far, but
I mean, he did get voted out of office, but that was about it. And even then,
or did he?
Got me there.
I mean, according to him, he definitely wasn't. So
that's true.
Stolen. Great.
Well, hopefully, he follows the other pattern of his life with his marriages and just goes on to run for president of Russia next, and then another country, just going around. I think so. Let's just to talk right now. Wouldn't it be funny if they all voted to find him guilty and we find that out the minute we stop recording? This whole thing is useless. Just as it's speech out of nowhere. I know Rand stands up and he's like, "I can't live this lie anymore. Guilty."
Even Tom Cotton's like, "Yeah, fuck that dude, man."
This, I tell you, it will be the ultimate. It will be the ultimate Ned. It will be the ultimate Ned Thorne editing job. It will just say. Guilty.
I would love that. There's various Republicans well, I don't want to vote guilty, but I bet a lot of nerds are recording podcasts right now, and I'd like to fuck their shit up. Guilty.
It's for all the podcasts out there.
Instead of Republicans, instead
the ultimate own the libs.
Instead of Republicans,
hit them where it hurts. The podcast.
Yeah, you don't have money to re-edit this.
When it comes to Donald Trump, I can't quit you, babe. It's I can't acquit you, babe. That's...
All right.
Can I leave?
And
I don't know what the rules are, but I want to leave.
Just bad news. If you leave, then the number of people it takes to convict and expel Robert from this podcast becomes a small number. You can filibuster.
Fair enough.
Thank you for the quorum. Anyway, a few hours later, Democrats and Republicans, basically out of nowhere, I was reading this on Twitter, not watching it live, because I'm binge watching ER right now. And first of all, great show. And there's
you know what? I think your priorities are right.
331 episodes. So this will get me through till I get vaccinated. I'm very but anyway, but out of nowhere, they're just seeing I guess the way it came out is that House managers today on Saturday announced that they wanted witnesses, which I guess the Democrats and Republicans were not given a lot of lead time in the Senate to know that this was coming. And there was a vote somewhere in the realm of, I think, 55. I think it was Romney, Collins, Murkowski, Sass, and Lindsey Graham, who all agreed to vote for witnesses. In Graham's case, it was to give credibility for, fine, if we're calling witnesses, I'm going to call everybody. He was the five of us are on that list. Everyone involved in politics is on that list. But
he originally voted against calling witnesses, and then switched, which it shocked a lot of people that Lindsey Graham went both ways on witnesses.
No,
I'm just saying that's exactly what happened. It was surprising that he decided to, vote against witnesses before he voted for them. Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
That's
all I'm saying.
All right, we'll come back to this on our on our follow-up podcast on shaming people. But then out of nowhere, a new vote was held that basically was like, all right, we don't need witnesses. Let's just end it today. And Congress
actually they didn't even really have a new vote. They just the original vote the original vote was how do we open up the conversation on having witnesses. And once that passed, they
the look on Shreya's face just now.
I'm gonna vote. I vote for the pyrotechnics guy from Great White to be at the Senate.
Well, basically, once that passed, Tom is quite right. They were a little bit surprised that the House managers were going to call for witnesses, and this basically came out because Representative Herrera Butler's comments, which had been out there for a while, got new life in the closing hours last night. And this part is important, just to put everything in context here. On Friday, because of ironically enough, the defense's testimony ended up, as they say on all the lawyer shows, opened up the door to causing a number of senators, Republicans and Democrats, to get into the timeline of the riot. And the question was, did Donald Trump know that Mike Pence was in danger when he sent out this other arguably insightful tweet saying, "Well, Mike Pence doesn't have the courage to stand up for the American people and their elections, and so go crazy, folks, go crazy." I'm paraphrasing. So Senator Romney and Senator Collins initially asked this of both sides, the House managers and Trump's lawyers, and then one of the Democrats also asked it as well. And it became very clear that this issue of, to use an old phrase, what the president knew and when did he know it, regarding Mike Pence, where Mike Pence was and at what stage the riot was, and so forth.
What Mike Pence's name was.
Yeah, so after that, Herrera Butler's comments were publicized, and so the House managers this morning, surprising a lot of people, said, we are going to call her specifically as a witness. We will depose her, over Zoom, have her testimony entered into the record. And then, if anybody else comes forward in this context, we'd also want to pursue them as well. For various political reasons, Senate Democrats were not really inclined to want to have witnesses, even though they voted to open up the discussion towards them. And so, after about a 2.5-hour break Saturday morning, they basically said, okay, we'll stipulate to having the public records of Herrera Butler's comments put into the record. So this should be more evidence that either side wants to use. I have my own issues as to why the Democrats did that, but I've already been talking too much, so I'll let
James Heskey, you look like you had a question.
Yeah, so we know Donald Trump fucking sucks, right?
Yeah, all right, yeah, accepted on the record.
Donkey balls, yes, he does.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And we know Republicans fucking suck, right?
Yes.
Sure.
I would argue that everyone in the situation sucks a lot at this moment, but yes, I'd say that Donald Trump and the Republicans are sucking quite a bit more in this particular moment in time.
Where's my $2,000?
Amen.
That's mostly my question. That's mostly my question. I think that's the main question. I think I get it that we need to do this exercise, and it's important to do this. And
but are they doing the exercise? That's what confuses me.
Yeah, you do it, and I get it. You do it, but you sort of run through it. But
James, it's interesting.
You run through it, but end it. End it and get us our $2,000.
James, the question that you raised is one of the reasons why the Democrats did what they did, in my view, in terms of shutting down the witnesses issue, because
and let's just quickly add that the concern is basically if they vote today on guilt, they will then go on a quick recess for, I believe, this upcoming week, come back and then focus on finishing Biden's cabinet and COVID.
Right.
Yeah, the recess would happen.
I get it. You're right.
The recess would happen. The recess would happen regardless of whether they had the guilty.
That's constitutionally mandated that they get a week off every month.
Yeah, seriously, what is with all these recesses?
The recess would happen.
It's a wonderful job to have.
It's great. It's fucking third grade.
Well, it is actually kind of funny because, Joe Biden said that he was going to have the schools reopened, but they're not open, but the recesses still continue. It's weird.
Oh, boy.
But
he said it in an interview from 12 feet away from the reporter.
To James's point, the Democrats were concerned that if you had multiple witnesses called and lengthy depositions, it would go on beyond this week and several weeks afterwards. And the concern was that because the rules that were stipulated to between McConnell and between Schumer and McConnell in terms of governing impeachment, no other Senate business, unless it was unanimously consented to, could continue while the impeachment was in place. That means, to James's point, that
they're not going to convict. They just aren't. They aren't. Just give up on it. They aren't. They fucking aren't.
Which is why they decided. Which is why they decided to surrender. Why they decided to surrender on the witnesses issue and get this out of the way now.
Right, and what they've done so far is very good. I think it's great. Spend a week on it. It's a very good exercise what they've done. I think it's great. I'm not saying what they've done is a waste. Let's spend a week on it and then wrap it up. Give us our $2,000.
Well, which is fine, and which is actually, by the way, which is the official editorial position. You'll be happy to know of the Bloomberg Opinion editorial page. So,
sure.
James,
you're
in good company. You're in good company.
Wow. I'm so glad hearing more people tell me what my opinion should be about the state of President to be held accountable for his actions.
Not just anybody, but particularly Bloomberg.
That's great. I'm so glad. I hope Mike can send a bunch of people out to, a bunch of comics out to on Facebook to spread the word.
Anyway, yeah, but the point. I
just got that.
Mo is Shreya. I'm sorry, you guys. I talked a lot. You guys.
Yeah, Shreya. You reacted affirmative to James.
I'll mute myself.
All right.
Well, okay. I'm all over the place on this.
Your take.
I'm all over the place on this, and to be fair, I haven't followed this news at all because I'm so fucking tired of everything. But also, yes, I feel like regular people like us are way more interested in $2,000. I think because we're somewhat politically tuned in, we also get that there's a lot more to impeaching and convicting Trump, and therefore this is slightly also not slightly, it is also important what they're doing. I agree wholeheartedly. I do not understand for the life of me the logic that goes into this process. And obviously I get that it's something dictated by hundreds of years of whatever American bullshit, founding father nonsense. But I cannot for the life of me understand why this is something that the House and Senate, bodies of governance who are supposed to be spending their time governing the rest of the country, are focused on this. It seems like something that should be in the courts.
And I think that's
Right.
a good point and a good question. Like, because I mean, let's go back on a minute on impeachment. Part of why you need a 2/3 vote of the Senate is because, and like, let's put the shoe on the other foot for a second. Like, if it were a simple majority, then let's say in a mythical world, I was just going to throw out a hypothetical. Let's say that one of the two political parties had a leadership that was just completely morally bereft and would do anything for power. Just imagine that for a second.
As a mind experiment.
Yeah, as a mind experiment. Then, they would probably impeach, say, like a president who hadn't done anything impeachable as quickly as they could and just kick him out of office. And that's why you have 2/3, so that, let's say, again, in that impossible.
I'm lost, Tom. I'm already lost.
There can't just be 50.
No, but like, wouldn't the ultimate decision lie with the court? So obviously people get impeached.
The ultimate decision on any, I think, criminal penalties like jail time would be reserved for the court. Like, the Congress can't send you to jail. They can just say you're impeached, you're guilty, and then presumably wherever you committed those impeachable offenses, the judicial system in that district, I would assume, or even like a federal judge might follow up with more investigations after that. But I think to that point, like what you made a point early on, and I actually am inclined to agree with, and I've been back and forth on this all morning, is that I do think that, as much as it is important, like he did something that was impeachable, he should be held accountable. I see the argument that says, but we know, we know how this vote is already going to turn out. I mean, 45 Republican senators said this isn't even a constitutional exercise. They're probably not going to be like, well, it's not constitutional, but guilty. Like, that's probably not going to occur at all, and I think you're foolish to assume what an election will be about 2 years early. And in fact, no one would have predicted in February of 2020 that the election that fall would be about COVID. But if I had to pick the two major issues we're confronting right now that the 2022 midterms will be about, Trump's crimes or COVID recovery, I suspect COVID recovery will be more on people's minds when they go to vote. And I can appreciate, this is one of the few times where I'm like, do I think Democrats got rolled? Yes. Do I think they were wrong to get rolled? I don't know, because I can see the argument of let's get the hell out of here and move on to the next thing.
Tom, I don't mind. I don't mind them getting rolled. I just think it's bad when they basically roll themselves.
Hey, baby, it's what we're here for.
That's what we do best. Exactly.
I mean,
do a little election called 2016.
Yeah, no, but what I mean, but in this particular case where the House managers, and by the way, one quick step back here. I think to a person, the House management team this year is by a huge factor so much better than last year's. Not only in just in terms of the strategy they approached. I think they're Jamie Raskin is, no offense to Adam Schiff, but Jamie Raskin is a much more likable individual. He comes across as your sort of like your affable lawyer dad, and I'm not saying this in a I don't mean to be in any way sound like I'm being slight in this. The personal tragedy that he went through, right before the riot in the Capitol, when he lost his son to suicide, and how he wove that into his opening remarks. I mean, was incredibly effective. You've also the Democrats also had a couple of rising stars on their team, like Joe Neguse from Colorado. Hey, by the way, side note, how is it that Colorado produces both like Joe Neguse and like Lauren Boebert, who is like Marjorie Taylor Greene Jr. Anyway, that's a side note.
Colorado joins Maine as one of those.
It's mountain air.
Yeah, they love two things in that state.
It's an entirely square state, and weird shit happens.
High altitude, low oxygen levels.
It's a state that loves its guns.
It's all those right angles.
My advice to Stacey Plaskett, who is like the delegate from the U.S. Virgin Islands, move to just about any state, sister, because you need to be a place where you can like run statewide and become like a big superstar in the Democratic Party.
Yeah, well, you and I talked about this at the beginning. Like the team they put together last year was a really solid like team of prosecutorial chops, like a team that understands law. Like this year around, they sent a political team. They sent, I mean, Swalwell and Castro are two of their better like on camera.
Swalwell is probably the only one I probably would not have put on there because.
But I mean, he's guy's good on TV.
He comes across as a little bit smarmy. Let me. Put it that way.
Well, yeah, boy, that's what.
Well, I mean, how are you going to avoid that with anyone?
No, but
regardless, my point being, they put together a team. It was a very diverse team too. The goal here was, I don't think the goal here was to necessarily win the vote, but to put the best possible case so that the country said, wow, I can't believe how broken the United States Senate is.
No, that's exactly.
Well,
that's the best you can do.
I want to turn Mo to your.
So my point was that they put together a great management House impeachment management team. But when that team comes towards the Senate and say, we think we would like to have some witnesses. The Democrats have to start being, Chuck Schumer and company have to start being more nimble and just kind of figure out, okay, well, how
we spend so much time talking about like the Democrats have to do this, the Republicans have to do this, and it's just clearly none of it is working because like people care about like taking care of their families right now. We don't give a shit about this. Like, it's like we care, but it's not going to change anything, and there's nothing about this trial that anybody thinks is actually going to lead to a educated, dignified discourse, right? So my whole thing is like, what are we going to do now, just like as a society? Because it's very clear that this isn't working. So I mean, like, I just it's just like Surya was saying earlier, it's just like I'm just so tired, and that's how everyone feels. So like I don't know, I'm kind of okay with it, just like.
And Mo, to your point. That's kind of been, President Biden has been pretty smart in keeping arm's distance away from this. He says, well, look, the Senate is going to do what it's going to do, and I think he said on like Thursday or Friday, that the prosecution did a good job, and they may have change some minds here and there, but he didn't invest energy and time and focus on it. He basically said, you do what you do, and we're just going to continue doing our job, which is smart politically.
And he did
and he spent all that time on that Valentine's thing, and on the lawn.
That's true. Yeah. Mo, go ahead.
Mo, can I? Let me interrupt. I'm sorry. Let me interrupt you for one quick second.
Yeah, I'm going to need you to interrupt.
Hey, Rob, one thing.
So that this doesn't feel like we're just ganging up.
Surya, I'm going to interrupt you.
James, one sec. I just need to get into Rob's.
All right. Robert George with breaking news.
57-43. 57.
Wow, that's better than I thought.
57 to convict, 43
who were our Republicans?
Wow.
Well, that I'm still trying to figure. Actually, can you give me 1 second? I'm going to try.
All right, Robert's going to break that.
Absolutely not, Robert.
Robert, come back.
All right.
Who's going to interrupt us now?
No. All right. Well, I will play the part of Robert.
Keep talking.
I have no idea how to do this.
Oh boy, it's hard.
There's at least two.
Okay, men.
There's at least two people.
Let's roll it back here.
Mo, please go ahead. Finish your point. We'll find out who it is.
Who even knows what my point was anymore, other than that I am exhausted. But I mean, like, I don't know. I what I really want is like reportcard.com on like every one of these votes, so I can like keep track of every single asshole that voted like for and against. It's like a full-time job keeping track of how terrible people have been over the last year. So yeah.
Okay, so
that's
guys,
what I really want.
All right, Robert, you've got the latest from the Senate floor.
These are the seven people. These are the 7 Republicans who voted to convict. Burr from Tom's third favorite state,
who is retiring at the end of
who's retiring. Cassidy from Louisiana, who just got reelected.
Yeah.
And then the rest are as expected. Collins, Murkowski, Romney, Sass, and Pat Toomey,
who is also retiring.
And who's also retiring, exactly.
And then, and Burr particularly, not only retiring, but you may recall a year ago, the good people in the Trump administration outed his many investments in various things that
were related to COVID.
He invested in a lot of pharmaceutical companies when he got those COVID briefings. So Burr's not a great guy.
One thing we can say is those 7 Republicans are now all good people, and we can just agree that they're fine and they're good, and that we love them now, and they're part of the resistance.
Well, one of the interesting.
I'm going to kiss them, and I care about them, and fuck them, and I hope they die. All right, whatever. I'm gonna go. All right, I'll just leave. How do I kill? I'll just leave. Hang on. What do I do? How do I?
All right.
So here we go. So this was a good. So this was great. You know, we actually had like really breaking news as this was going on.
They threw one to the podcast.
Yeah.
Threw a bone to the podcast.
Society survives.
To Tom's point. Burr ended up finding himself in the crosshairs of the Trump administration because he led the Senate Intelligence Committee, which put out a blistering report on the Russia investigation, which really went even further than the Mueller report did in terms of implicating the whole Trump 2016 team and its.
Where's my $2,000?
All right.
Just a quick question. Where's my $2,000?
Well, I can promise you.
What does this have to do with my $2,000?
We just listed the names.
That's my question.
Republicans who are
just following up on my $2,000. That's what I want to know.
I remember that I interrupted Mo with the breaking news. So Mo, you got the floor.
Wait, which time?
Let's move on.
I'm so sorry. I have a really dumb question.
Please.
So it's 55 to 43.
57, 43.
57 to convict, but it wasn't enough to actually convict.
It's 10 short of conviction. It needs 2/3.
It needs to be 2/3 of who's present. So.
That's
but I believe now that it's 57 votes, he is now no longer entitled to any presidential discounts at major shopping locations.
By the way, though, this is the largest guilty vote of any impeachment in history, and it's also the most bipartisan impeachment vote. I mean, the last one was technically kind of bipartisan because the Democrats picked up Mitt Romney, but that was under this is also the
right. I mean, we picked him up the same way like his dog rode in the car with him.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying that look, this time you've got seven members. There's never been a case where you've had as many members of the then current president voting to convict. So Donald Trump once again goes down in history as truly awesome.
Somebody text me when he's dead. Just how about we do that? Just somebody fucking text me when he's dead, and at that point, that's what I want to know. Like, text me when he's dead, and we'll move on. I don't give a fuck about him. Like, that's what's right. He's not president anymore.
At least it's only about a year and a half before we have to deal with talks of re-election and or the next campaign.
Yeah,
right. But he's gonna. But his brain is turning into fucking pudding, and it
wasn't before.
Yeah.
No, but he's gonna go out. I know, but he's gonna go out onto this. He's gonna try to go out onto the stump, and he will go out there. And he will say the N-word, and it will make things different. And that will be the line. I think it.
No, Mr. Trump, the congressman's name is Neguse. You can mispronounce it. It's Neguse.
All right, that wasn't bad. You can make that.
He won't say, "Look at my African American friends." Like is what I'm saying.
Let's move on. Now that justice has reigned in America and the United States Senate, the only place in the world where 57 people can call you guilty and you are thus considered innocent, let's talk other issues of the week. And a thing that we've seen an uptick around in the last year, we've seen an uptick of violence against Asian American, Asian Pacific Islander communities across the country, and there's a particular spike in the last month. There's some connection here just based on the fact that,
I'll just mute myself for this one.
Okay. Thank you, James. Oh boy, it's like being a father. And there's some connection at least to the impeachment trial, just in that we've seen that uptick, particularly in response to the COVID pandemic, which former president of the United States, who was Donald Trump, famously referred to it as the China virus. And part of why we, had such a push to go through with this impeachment was an idea that, maybe the vote would fall, but still, there had to be repercussions on this insurrection at the Capitol, which was motivated in no small part due to racism, to white supremacy. And to have that against this backdrop of this uptick in violence, which is, in my view, not getting enough reporting on in the mainstream media, is really striking. And it's a harsh reminder of the fact, in my view, that in the last, something was unleashed in the last 4 years that just having a new president sworn in won't put back in the bottle. And we're particularly seeing it generally in major cities. And it got a lot of reporting this week, just with this being the Lunar New Year falling on Friday. And you saw an uptick of police presence in a lot of your major cities, Chinatowns, and predominantly Asian neighborhoods. And I wanted to talk about it for a few moments, because I think it is an important thing we're not talking enough about. Sharia, we'll start with you. I know you've been talking about this a lot in your social media channels, and just your take on what's happening out there and your thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, I think the most shocking thing, and I'd love to hear from Mo as well on this, was that it took so long to actually talk about it. Mainstream media only recently kind of started covering it. I'm sure that was in large part due to the pressure that people were putting on them just by speaking out about it, and also the timeliness with Chinese New Year and Lunar New Year coming up. But I think at change.org, we saw a ton of petitions that people were starting around obviously justice for such and such person, but also talk about us and share this news and cover these stories, because they weren't being covered at all. And that was the most hurtful part to see, that this wave of violence wasn't even newsworthy, except to the particular community that the person belonged to. And that's nothing new. But I think just given everything, it was particularly really, it's 2021 and we're still dealing with this.
Probably dealing with it even more than we have in the last few years. And I think that the thing that really sucks about it is that it's disproportionately people who are also, in the front lines. If you're out and about, a lot of people are just staying home as much as they can, but the people that are out are the people that have to be out. It's your front, the people that are making food, the people that are are taking care of people at a hospital or a home care place, or maybe just trying to take a walk because it's the first time they've left their house.
Yeah.
It doesn't, frankly, it doesn't surprise me at all.
Quickly interject just to add to that that's there's also an uptick in seniors and what they're finding. Seniors, exactly. A thing I've learned with senior parents throughout this pandemic, just that that one walk outside a day is sort of the equivalent to whatever whatever exercise or fitness that we do, or A, B, and C, many things that we do. So that's when it's seen. I'm sorry, continue.
Yeah, I mean, my dad in Flushing, who lives in a 10-story apartment building, the only time he's getting out is when he's taking a walk around a block. And you know what? I keep thinking about that. I wish I remembered who the comedian was, but it was you know what? I think if you're gonna be racist, you should be denied all access to any food that's not potatoes or anything else, because I was these people are like just throwing out all of this hate. They're being violent against like an 84-year-old man from Thailand. And what is that guy doing to you? And I'm just like, I don't think people like, even the people that have all this hate inside them don't even realize like that, like how much of that person's culture is already infused in their life. And it's so confusing. It's very serious, and also it does make me want to like take all of the good food away from everyone in this country except for our communities of color.
And what's interesting about that, I remember a video. This was early in the pandemic here in New York City of an Asian woman getting attacked on the subway for wearing a mask, and the argument was like, you're spreading that virus. And it's such a weird world we live in that at that point in time we thought if you were wearing a mask that meant you had the virus, and now we as a culture understand that actually the point of those masks is to say, I don't want to get it from you. Like, I don't want to find out what's going on. I'm just taking care of everybody. It's me being generous and caring.
Also, didn't most of the virus come here from Europe?
Yeah, most of Europe, particularly on the East Coast and the Northeast, and I think Louisiana, where we saw our early
Interesting.
The Asian strain, I believe, did hit Washington State, but the thing that like the spread that has mostly hit the country can be sourced back to New York, which is sourced by the European strain. Yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And James.
This is what I get. Look, in my defense, every single winter I go to London and I just lick everything. James. That's how James and I met.
Yeah,
the London Lick Fest.
We like to bring things into the country. We are insourcers.
It's always worked.
Let's go down to. How about we go down to Harrod Square and pick up some viruses? Hey, mate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bring it on home. Bring it on home to the kids.
Look.
Yeah.
Let's have a ball over at Pick-a-Licky Square.
Yeah. Let's get some COVID in it.
Yeah, in it. You call it gross. I call it Christmas. All right.
Yeah.
I've been going to the doctor a lot lately, and the nurse that does the check-ins, she's doing the COVID check-ins, like, have you gotten sick or anything? But the questions she asks almost every single person is, have you licked any doorknobs lately? Which I think is funny. But I'm always like just a little afraid that the person in front of me is like not gonna laugh and not be as surprised as I want them to be.
Yeah.
By that question.
Yeah.
You just gotta say like, how lately? How lately?
Yeah.
I try not to
lick lately.
I only lick a door job. I only lick a doorknob when I'm in a jam.
Yeah.
That's all. That's the only.
I gave a lady friend of mine a door job.
Hey. James, I'm surprised you even found it.
Oh, yeah. Boy. Yeah. My answer to that, doctor, by the way, be like, answer that question. No, I've not licked any doorknobs. Doorknobs. It's over. I think door job is the name of this episode. Follow-up question for you, doctor. How many people on this line said yes? I think when you see that's what's so troubling looking through this wave of discrimination. Like there's no good or acceptable reason for discrimination whatsoever. But when you look through it, like you look into these stories, you're trying to feel like, what is the source? What is this about? And it is about literally like absolute best case scenario, nothing. Worst case scenario, it is continuing the lie of like COVID was brought by China and you're Asian enough, so I'm gonna do this, and it is
You're talking about me, right?
Yes, yeah, yes, I am.
Yeah,
that was the police plotter report on you, Heskey. That
Asian enough that's the name of my album.
Right.
It's Asian enough.
I believe banned on everything, even the Daily Caller. But and I'm curious, like, and Robert, you've been, you are my go-to source on all things news and what's happening. Like, what is your take on this? What are your thoughts reading these stories and about the lack of coverage too? Like, it's not getting as strong a coverage as it should. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, there was a little. This is the weird irony here that when Donald Trump was president, there was there's a little bit more focus because of his contemptuous language of China virus and all this other kind of stuff. When incidents did actually happen, people would say, look, the president is helping create an environment for prejudice and hate and so forth. The eerie aspect is now that he is not tweeting he's not tweeting stuff out there, and he's not in our face every single day.
Why isn't he tweeting as much?
Because the Twitter
he got canceled.
Twitter impeached and convicted him in a more meaningful way than the Congress did by actually kicking him off Twitter. And they announced a couple of weeks ago that it's permanent. But the point is, because he's not out there, it becomes almost like I hate to put it this way, but out of sight, out of mind. Because there's not a public figure out there trying to exhibit hate or prejudice against Asian Americans. People tend to put it out, ignore it. But
it's kind of how racism is always handled when Democrats are in power.
Yes and no. President Biden,
when Andrew Johnson was president,
in one of his executive orders. No, serious point here.
I agree with the yes part.
Robert. I'm sorry.
In his executive one of his executive orders, President Biden did mention this and did try to elevate it. But the other point is, though, that sometimes people do figure, the Democrats are in power, so I don't really have to worry about.
Yeah, it's that sense of complacency and
everything's solved.
I mean, and also I will say in a deluge.
There's an Asian vice president. There can't be any more racism, right? Just like there's an Asian black president. There's a black vice president too. Racism solved. Hallelujah.
Blasian.
Yeah.
But I mean, is that what we're saying now, Blasian?
Yeah.
In a new administration where there are no less than 1,000 different fires that need to be put out, like an executive order that says don't hate on Asian Americans is actually not going to do too much. All right, we actually need to maybe change a conversation. And just because somebody stirred the racist pot and spread a lot of trauma around people doesn't mean it's going to automatically change with the change of a new administration. So
there's also a cop vice president, so that's pretty cool.
but wait a second. Tom, hold on 1 second.
All right.
Tom, 1 second.
Please do.
Why
7 Republicans voted to convict, so I'll allow.
Why are we worrying about?
I'm having fun.
Why are we worrying about this Asian racism when the big issue is, where's the $2,000? That's what we need to focus on,
Nicely
right?
done.
We can't.
Thank you, Robert.
But I was about to.
Thank you. The Republican wants his $2,000 from the government.
But I was about to.
Because there's now so many Asian Americans who are not going to get those $2,000 because they were murdered.
I know.
But I was going to say, tying to that,
I'll
because it's an
take
important thing.
Why I'll take it, $2,000.
They should have been working harder, Sriya. What can I say?
I can't say. I don't know enough. Oh boy. That's getting edited out.
Okay.
But no, I
remember when Robert used to have a job?
Editorial columnist.
See, I've offended both white men on the panel.
Former Bloomberg columnist Robert George.
Once again, this damn cancel culture. What can I say?
Now writing for Facebook.com. But no, I think an important thing to note, the general uptick in crime that you've seen in America's cities, you can see a certain connection back to the pandemic in that you have a lot of particularly young men who have nothing to do. And that has been part of it. And just a general, the general anxiety and raises pulled from that. So there is something to be said. And I think, you run that challenge of what can government do to essentially solve racism? And one of the answers is to set a better example, but part of that other, part of how you reduce crime is to is to actually, create more things to do and things to occupy the time of young, particularly like young men are who you tend to see being responsible for crime. And you see a correlation between nothing going on, joblessness and no resources, like schools being closed, high schools being closed, that kind of thing. And an uptick of trouble that eventually exacerbates into crime. So I do wonder what.
Well, there's also, Tom, there's also a question
to a downtrend of crime in that general.
Well, Tom, I mean, there's the other elephant in the room, is that there's also a question about.
Oh, Anne's here.
There's also a question about whether some of the
is about right.
Let Robert finish.
Sorry.
The other question is whether any of the protests last summer caused some police departments to back off on proactive enforcement. I'm not saying that that's the only issue, but I think it has to be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
I don't think it does.
All right, why not? Yours.
Backing down from being proactively violent and awful is not I don't think that's a sound argument.
But that's not what I said. That's not what I said.
Well, clarify what you said.
Yeah, clarify, because that's what I heard. So.
Well, I know, but if your only sense of what cops do is just be violent and beat down on minority communities, I can see why you would think that. But there's a fine line between proactive policing, where neighborhood policing and things like that, where there is a visible police presence, but it's not there to intimidate. It's there to support. I mean, even in New York, this discussion has been going on, and there are members of the minority community who feel that there has been less police presence in some of their neighborhoods, and it has led to an increase in crime. They're not out there asking, "Oh, we want you in here, beating up our young kids and shooting them and all this other kind of stuff." But there is a problem within our neighborhoods. Murders have gone up, and we need to have this. It's a problem that we need to address. That's why there's always been a tension between over policing but there's always been a tension between under policing and over policing in minority neighborhoods, and that's one of the reasons why the whole defund the police thing last summer was kind of absurd, because a lot of minority communities don't want the police defunded. They want smart policing within their communities.
I mean, I would say that, the idea of policing needing to be the answer is part of the problem. It's not, I think, yes, I think what you said can be true, but none of these things are in a vacuum, right? So there needs to be a detraction of police that are going to be actively violent, but I also don't see people propping up the mental health experts and the people who are able to intervene in ways that don't involve having a police officer on every street corner. There are many ways that have been absolutely proven to help reduce violence, reduce murders, without having to have somebody that's out there with a gun or a taser out there to deal with it. So that, that's.
I 100% agree with you, Mo. And I think I want to say Denver, but some town that has started with 911 calls, dispatching social workers instead of actual police officers, which one lessens the load on police so they can actually focus on what they're trained in and, able to handle and aren't overstretched. And two, lets people who are trained in more unstable situations to properly handle those so that it doesn't escalate to needing violent tactics or people fearing for their lives and accidentally killing someone in the process. So I think what communities really want are resources, and sometimes there's like this misunderstanding maybe that like police is the only option, and if that's their only option, then it's either like they're going to solve our problems or they're going to kill us, and we don't know, but we're like we need help, and we're just not sure who to ask, and what resources are there for us.
I want to move on to one other thing, but I just want to put a pin on that. What to me is a really kind of, I don't know if heartbreaking is the right word, but like tragic thing about the debate on policing from this past summer is that so many of the things that I've heard activists say they don't want police doing anymore, things that, you know, when they are not posturing for political purposes, you also hear police unions say that their members don't want to be doing anymore. But unfortunately, a lot of the union leadership, in my experience, tend to be people who'd rather win a political argument than actually move forward. One last thing to talk about this week: America's governor, Andrew Cuomo. Robert, is he going to get reelected in 2022? It's looking pretty bad. Because it's a fun thing that it turns out. I think about this a lot. People always like, oh, why does Cuomo win all the time? And the answer is because most of the people who vote in New York are old people who really like him. Bad news for him. Turns out he let a lot of old people die. Which is not a good place to be when you need.
It's kind of a similar problem. It's kind of a similar problem if you think about it to what Donald Trump had. You know, a lot of the old people who voted for Donald Trump in 2016 didn't quite make it to 2020 because, oh, that's right, he messed up with the pandemic.
Yeah, let me tell you something about these old people. They like living. They like it a lot, even if they don't do much. They enjoy being alive.
It's the one thing that they're good at.
Yeah, that's maybe the best at.
you know, but
they're not that great at it though.
Tom, you know, Tom always teases me about being. Speaking of old people, he always teases me about being so old.
Older, not so old.
Okay. One of the interesting ironies in New York. I shouldn't call it. There's an interesting trend.
Let's quickly just back up to explain the situation. So the Cuomo administration underreported the number of deaths. Nursing homes from COVID.
There were two situations. The first part was that the Cuomo administration in the early days of the pandemic took people who had recovered, who had been sent to a hospital, recovered from COVID, and then put them back into nursing homes. And this was early on, before people completely understood the contagion and transmission and things like that.
Did they, Robert?
Kind of.
Did they?
But anyway,
actually, yes.
So initially. So initially.
Oh, is it a virus? Can you just? Does it go in the air? We don't know.
I can't believe this. This is like the most number of times I've said let Robert George finish on a show.
Does it go in the air? We don't know how does it go? We don't know how it contracts.
All right, Robert, continue.
So damn this guy.
The Trump, excuse me, the Cuomo administration initially said that they were following CDC guidelines. And they kind of got a pass on that aspect of it. It then later on it started to come out that they undercounted the number of people who had actually who died because of that nursing home policy. They said that the people who had actually died in the hospital, they counted as a hospital death, not as a nursing home death, which made it harder to track how many people were connected to the whole nursing home death aspect of COVID. And this was at the point where the CDC and media were all trying to ascertain how many deaths nationwide were connected to nursing homes. What happened this week now, a lot of criticism. Cuomo had been getting a lot of criticism from New York Republicans and conservative media outlets like the New York Post, where I worked years ago, and they had basically been able to duck mainstream criticism. It broke this past week, though, when his number one aide, a woman by the name of Melissa DeRosa, a tape came to the fore where she was heard telling Democratic politicians in Albany that they basically deep-sixed, hid a lot of the numbers because they were afraid of a Trump administration or federal government investigation. And so, by the way, in all the middle of this, of course, Andrew Cuomo wrote a book talking about how well he handled COVID. So
hey, look, in his defense, that book was "I Sure Killed a Lot of Old People" by Andrew Cuomo, and we were just like, weird title, but whatever, he could do no wrong.
So this falls into
it was called "Fuck It, Octogenarians."
This falls into the category of karma is a bitch, kids.
You must be this old to live in Cuomo's humor. James, I know you of everyone has to have a strong opinion on this, and also have to hop soon. So I'll let you get the first swing at this.
I was just going to say it's amazing. Out of all the Italian Americans in New York, that Cuomo has the most bodies on him. I mean that guy. He is. They really need to look into this. He has. He's botched this on an incredible level, and not only has he botched it, but the idea that they have in the summer that the party rallied around him and was like, "You're doing so great, Cuomo.
And the
way
media
to go,
too,
buddy."
And the media too.
I mean,
the media gave him the media gave him a big pass, partly because partly because he came across as not Trump by putting on.
He was like 4% better. He was like 4% less dumb than Trump.
He went on TV every day
so
and
much.
spoke.
He sucks. He absolutely sucks. I voted for the Sex and the City lady, and I don't even think she would have been that great, but she was just less bad. I mean, he sucks so bad.
At least if Cynthia Nixon, at least if Cynthia Nixon had been elected, it would have come with a Miranda warning.
Oh, all right, that's not bad.
How do I throw my? Is there a way for me to throw my entire computer away? How do I do that?
Yeah,
how do we do
that? I think what happens when the bar is so low that you're like, well, this person isn't as bad as this person, so they're doing like okay, and that's just like the real bummer of it all. I think is that's where we're at with basically every leader in the country at the moment. It's like, well, they're not as bad as
one thing I left out. One thing I did leave out in my little summary. Another turning point in this story, beyond the tape that came out this week, was, I guess, 3 weeks ago now. The New York Attorney General Tish James, she put out her own scathing report on how Cuomo handled this. And one of the surefire things in politics is if criticism comes from your own party, it's going to carry a whole lot more weight than if it's going to come from the other party. So suddenly, other Democrats and the media suddenly said, "Okay, there really is something here." By the way, going back many decades, Mario Cuomo, who's also governor back in the 80s and the 90s, everything started to fall apart for him in his third term, and he ended up losing when he tried to run for a fourth term. A similar thing happened to Mayor Ed Koch. His third term as mayor, everything started to collapse. There were lots and lots of scandals. He tried to run for a fourth term. He lost in the primary.
Not as drastically bad, but I would say Mike Bloomberg's of his 3 terms, his weakest was his last term.
And it was his weakest as well. Yeah. So there's always been
also his first debate.
There's kind of a third term curse in New York politics. I will predict right now Andrew Cuomo will not run for a fourth term, and if he does run for a fourth term, he will lose in the primary to Tish James.
Shreya, your thoughts on the future of the Cuomo sexual movement here in New York?
I cannot wait. Well, I feel like it's kind of died down already. It is interesting that like the people who are hardcore Cuoming earlier in the pandemic are like not right now.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's silent and in their little nooks, just hiding away, ashamed at what they've done, as they should be. As for Cuomo himself, I don't know. Like I also voted for Sex and the City, and then in the general voted for him.
Wait, the show or Cynthia Nixon?
Yeah, I would have put the whole show on instead. Yeah, just the whole show.
I'll take whoever I can get. Even fucking Charlotte would be better than Andrew Cuomo, I'm sure.
I voted for Arliss in that election. So.
What's it? I forgot his name. Whoever Stanley Tucci played. He was on the show, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. Or he was definitely in the
I think Stanley Tucci's in everything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he's got a big role in every single show.
I've been catching up. I've been catching up with Sex and the City on HBO Max right now over the last few weeks, and it's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting going back to like that late '90s, early 2000s era. And, anyway.
Yeah.
They always say 9/11 hasn't happened yet. It's weird how much they say that.
But look, they're right. It's a true moment. I think I would say just in terms of Cuomo,
can't wait for Sex and the City, the reboot. Never forget.
It's going to address COVID. They promised. So
no Samantha, no Samantha, no sex.
I mean, like just all the TV shows that are like, we really need to address COVID on like Brooklyn Nine-Nine or whatever. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't. I'm good. I get that it's not a real world. I think we're all fully aware this isn't real, right? That it's not really happening.
They're going to start every episode on the reboot. Like, as I was sitting on the bench in Central Park, not forgetting. Suddenly dawned on me.
Oh, that's as good a place to leave it for this week. I'll just say one last thing on Cuomo. In the words of our good pal Oliver Willis, strong and wrong will always beat weak and right. And that is a big part of why, Cuomo took off. It's like every day he just went out and looked strong and confident. Just turned out the numbers weren't right. This is a rough thing. But this is a great conversation. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of it. I'll go quickly around and tell folks where they can find you online and hear more of your beautiful, wonderful, intelligent thoughts. Shreya, where can the kids find you online on social media?
Well, I'm on Twitter, I guess, Shreya Sarkar7. Good luck spelling that right. If you find me, if you don't,
do you spell out?
Amazing.
One more follower.
Amazing. Thank you. It'll be SRIYA SARKAR 7 because there are more than just one of me.
Sure.
And yeah, Brown Taboo Project is wherever you find podcasts like this one.
Excellent. Thank you. Mo, where can folks follow you and find more of what you have to say out there?
You can follow me on Twitter at Mo Manklang, MOMANKLANG, not Mom and Clang, Mo Manklang. But it's mostly cat content, so if that's what you're looking for in 2021, as I think most people are, that's where you can find me.
It's the right call. James Heskey, where can folks find you online?
All the social medias, James Heskey. There's only one other James Heskey, and this is what's hilarious. He does SEO, whatever. So he's trying to beat me out, and I'm crushing him. I'm absolutely destroying him.
You should
learn as a comedian.
You should learn Spanish and then just destroy them on both sides.
Yeah, So I'm sure he's a nice guy, but sorry, other James Heskey, HESKY. Just you're just not cutting it.
Excellent, thank you. And Robert George, where can folks find you online?
You can find me interrupting a lot of people at Rob George on Twitter, Rob George 29 on Instagram. Come for the puns, stay for the trenchant political commentary, or vice versa. And as part of the Bloomberg Opinion crew, you can also follow us at BOpinion to find my my insights, as well as my much smarter colleagues as well.
Excellent. And I am Tom Brennan.
By the way, Tom, I apologize for interrupting.
The show is over, goddammit.
I won't do it again.
All right. There's a lot of Tom Brennans out there, including my father. So I go at Brennanator on Twitter, at Brennanatorgram on Instagram. Thank you again, panel, for being part of the show. And thank you, as always, to Declan Shalvey and Jordy Belair, who designed the Electoral Dysfunction Eagle art. Thank you to Kevin Scott, who did our show animation, to Joanne Harris, who did our show theme song, and Ned Thorne, who helps me put these together every single week. And thank you again to Megan O'Malley for opening our show this week. And now, to close us out this week, I'm going to kick it over to the only person from Queens we're not mad at these days, our old pal, David Wade, with the David Wade Experience. Ned Thorne, star wipe us to Queens.